Reproduction in plants. Reproduction is a biological process by which an organism reproduces an offspring which is similar biologically to the parent organism. Reproduction process mainly enables and ensures the continuity of species generation after generation, or simply we can say that reproduction is the production of offsprings. Modes of reproduction. Most of the plants have roots, stems, and leaves, which are called the vegetative parts of a plant. After growing for a certain period, most of the plants bear flowers. Just like the flowering of mango trees in the spring season, the flowers give rise to juicy fruits. We usually eat the juicy part of the fruit and mostly discard the seeds which germinate and form new plants. So, the flowers perform the most important function of reproduction in plants. Flowers are the reproductive parts of a plant. A flower may have either the male part or the female part, or both male and female parts. There are several ways by which plants reproduce. These are categorized into two main types. Asexual reproduction. Plants can give rise to new plants without seeds. Sexual reproduction. New plants are obtained from seeds. Asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, new plants are obtained without production of seeds or spores. Asexual reproduction involves only one organism or parent. Types of asexual reproduction: vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, spore formation. Vegetative propagation. It is a type of asexual reproduction in which new plants are produced from roots, stems, leaves, and buds. Since this reproduction is through the vegetative parts of the plant, it is known as vegetative propagation. The cutting mode of propagation can be used to grow bougainvillea, sugarcane, and cactus. You can perform this by cutting a branch of rose, bougainvillea, or champa having a node. This piece of branch is known as cutting. After this, burying the cutting in the moist soil and watering it regularly, the cutting will give rise to new roots which will further grow into a new plant. Care should be taken while making cuttings so that there are some leaf buds. Take care that bud should not be cut while planting the cuttings. Advantage of cutting method. It is helpful in producing many new but similar type of plants from one plant without waiting for flowers and seeds. It is helpful in producing exact copies of the parent plant. Besides flower buds, there are buds in the axil, point of attachment of the leaf, at the node of leaves which develop into shoots. These buds are called vegetative buds. A bud consists of a short stem around which immature overlapping leaves are folded. The vegetative buds can also give rise to new plants. The roots of some plants can also give rise to new plants like sweet potato and dahlia. Plants such as cacti produce new plants when their parts get detached from the main plant body. Each detachment part can grow into a new plant. Advantages of vegetative propagation. Plants produced by vegetative propagation take less time to grow and bear flowers and fruits earlier than those produced from seeds. The new plants are exact copies of the parent plant as they are produced from a single parent. Fruit trees grown by this method start to bear fruits only after a few growing seasons. Plants grown vegetatively usually need less attention in their earlier stages than plants grown from seeds. Plants like bananas and pineapples, which do not produce seeds, can only be grown vegetatively. Budding. The tiny organisms like yeast can be seen only under a microscope. If sufficient nutrients are made available to these tiny organisms, then they grow and multiply every few hours. The yeast is a single-celled organism. Fragmentation. The greenish tinge of color in a pond or a lake is due to the presence of algae, which can be seen in the form of slimy green patches, mostly in ponds or in other stagnant water bodies. When water and nutrients are available, then this algae grow and multiply rapidly by fragmentation. During this process, an alga breaks up into 2 or more fragments upon maturation. These fragments or pieces grow into new individuals. This process continues many times, and very soon algae cover a large area in a short period of time. Spore formation. This is the most common method of asexual reproduction in majority of fungi and bacteria. The fungi can be easily grown on a moist piece of bread from spores which are present in the air. These spores can easily be seen if the cotton-like mesh on the bread is taken on a slide and a very small portion of it is seen under the microscope. At maturity, these spores are released and they keep floating in the air. Being light in weight, they can cover long distances. The spores are asexual reproductive bodies which are present in a structure called sporangium. This sporangium develops from the fungal hypha. Each spore is covered by a hard protective coat to withstand unfavorable conditions such as high temperature and low humidity. So, they can survive for a long time. Under favorable conditions, a spore germinates and develops into a new individual. Plants such as moss and ferns also reproduce by means of spores. Sexual reproduction. The flowers are the reproductive parts of a plant. The stamens are the male reproductive part and the pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower. The flowers which contain either only the pistil or only the stamens are called unisexual flowers. The flowers which contain both stamens and pistil are called bisexual flowers. Corn, papaya, and cucumber produce unisexual flowers, whereas mustard, rose, and petunia have bisexual flowers. Both the male and the female unisexual flowers may be present in the same plant or in different plants. Anther contains pollen grains which produce male gametes. A pistil consists of stigma, style, and ovary. The ovary contains one or more ovules. The female gametes or the egg is formed in an ovule. In sexual reproduction, a male and a female gamete fuse to form a zygote. Pollination. Generally, pollen grains have a tough protective coat which prevents them from drying up. Since pollen grains are light, they can be carried by wind or water. Insects visit flowers and carry away pollen on their bodies. Some of the pollen lands on the stigma of a flower of the same kind. The transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. If the pollen lands on the stigma of the same flower, it is called self-pollination. When the pollen of a flower lands on the stigma of another flower of the same plant or that of a different plant of the same kind, it is called cross-pollination. Cross-pollination may occur in many ways. Many trees and shrubs and most grasses depend on the wind to carry pollen from one flower to another. Wind-pollinated flowers are not brightly colored and do not normally have nectar. Birds and insects are the common carriers of pollen. When a bird feeds on the nectar, sweet liquid of a flower, some pollen gets stuck to its body. As the bird flies from flower to flower, it spreads pollens. Insects are among the most common carriers of pollen. They may be attracted to a flower by its scent or coloring. Fertilization. After the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of the flower, then pollen tube is formed through which the male gametes enter into the ovary and fuse with the eggs in ovules. This process is referred to as fertilization. Fertilization is the process in which fusion of nuclei of male and female gametes takes place, which lead to the formation of zygote. This fusion of male and female gamete is called syngamy. After fertilization has taken place, the fertilized ovule is known as zygote. The zygote develops into an embryo, and fertilized ovule develops into seed. Fruit and seed formation. After fertilization, the ovary grows into a fruit and other parts of the flower fall off. The fruit is the ripened ovary. The seeds develop from the ovules. The seed contains an embryo enclosed in a protective seed coat. Some fruits become sweet and juicy, forming edible fruits like mangoes and oranges. Sometimes they become hard and woody, forming the shells of nuts. Fruits may contain one or more seeds. Seed dispersal. The plants growing at different places are mostly the same. This happens because seeds are dispersed to different places. Agencies of seed dispersal. Seeds and fruits of plants are carried away by wind, water, and animals. Dispersal by wind. Seeds and fruits of some plant types contains feathery hairs which project from the fruit or seed and so increases its surface area. So only seed floats over long distances and is likely to be carried a long way from the parent plant by slight air currents. Example, winged seeds of drumstick and maple and light seeds of grasses or hairy seeds of ack, madar and hairy fruit of sunflower get blown off with the wind to faraway places. The fruit of poppy, called a capsule, scatters its very small seeds when it's shaken by the wind. Dispersal by water. These fruits or seeds usually develop floating ability in the form of spongy or fibrous coat with hard covering, as in coconut, which can easily be carried to long distances by water currents. Example, water lily, lotus, and coconuts. Dispersal by animals. Some seeds are dispersed by animals, especially spiny seeds with hooks, which get attached to the body of animals and are carried to distant places like xanthium and urina. Some seeds are dispersed when the fruits burst with sudden jerks. The seeds are scattered far from the parent plant. This happens in the case of castor and balsam.